France was upset by Georgia and eliminated from the FIBA EuroBasket despite being heavy favorites. And let's just say Bilal Coulibaly did not look very good today. This is Locked On Wizards.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
DC family, you're locked on to the Washington Wizards. We thank you for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every single day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm one of your co-hosts, Ben Schrober. I cover all things DC sports for 106.7 The Fan and the Team 980. Alongside, as always, the host of the DMV Sports Zone page. That's Abdullah. Be sure to check out all of his DMV content at the DMV Sports Zone page. AB, dub for the Commanders today. How we doing?
Feeling great. Want to know? It's always good when you can beat your divisional opponent, the New York Giants. Move on to Thursday Night Football.
There we go. I feel like I'm going to kill the vibe today with today's episode of Locked On Wizards. For all of our DC family out there that's watching this podcast, probably was tuned into some Commanders content as well. Feeling good after the win against the Giants, but not a win for France in the FIBA EuroBasket. In fact, they were eliminated today in upset fashion by Georgia, a team that not anticipated to beat this France team, to say the least. And France was missing a lot of key guys, so a lot of the workload was put on to Bilal Coulibaly, and, well, did not quite live up to the expectations. We're going to touch on that today. He struggled mightily throughout the tournament. Will Bilal have a short leash this year is what I'm wondering, and that's something that we'll touch on in the second segment. What if he doesn't pan out? What does that outlook look like for the Wizards? What would be the next steps going forward? Real quick, we remind you that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. $5 bet is all you need to place because football season is here right now. New customers can bet those $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets. Download the FanDuel app and go to FanDuel.com to get started today. FIBA EuroBasket today, so Bilal had a heavier workload than usual because some of the other key guys, NBA talent players for France, not playing. And disappointing for Bilal, who was scoreless in the game in the loss to Georgia. He went 0 for 3 in the contest. And overall, he was not assertive. He was not aggressive. And his tournament wraps up with some pretty pedestrian numbers. 6.5 points per game, 4.3 rebounds, 0.5 assists, 41% from the field, but a pretty abysmal 3 of 14, 21% from beyond the arc. So after playing pretty well in some of those friendlies, looking aggressive, looking assertive, looked like the jump shot maybe was starting to take form for him, and the catch and shoot opportunities. When they got to the real competitions, it didn't quite look the same for Bilal. And it doesn't matter necessarily in the grand scheme of things, but you never like to see one of your guys struggling in this European-type basketball, AB.
Yeah, it is pretty disappointing, Ben, like you mentioned. Georgia, I really don't know any players on that team like that. I don't know if there are any that are in the NBA, so that's kind of funny there. But again, 0 for 3. It's more disappointing that he just stopped shooting the ball. I get it. There's off nights, but if you're Bilal Coulibaly, your 3 jump that we're always talking about, you have to go out there and just, hey, I have to make an impact one way or another. If that shot's not going down, I'm going to take another one because that's just the confidence in you. And we always talk about it. If that jump doesn't happen, there's so many wings on this team that a guy will come in there and take a spot. And we always talk about the Cam Whitmore trade. Maybe behind the scenes, there was a reason why this organization traded for Cam Whitmore, only give up 2 second-round picks. In the back of their minds, they're thinking if Bilal doesn't pan out offensively, Cam Whitmore has proven that he can put up 30 points in the game, so why not plug him in and play? But Bilal Coulibaly, defensively, we love him. We really love him. But offensively, in today's NBA, you have to learn how to shoot. And it's just I get it. It's basketball overseas. It's not in the NBA, but it's really concerning because you want to see this guy improve, but especially when against Georgia, when the competition, when it matters, it's just like, what are we doing here, man?
So, AB, Bilal becomes rookie eligible for an extension in October 2026. That'd be after playing full 3 seasons in the NBA. He'd be eligible for that extension with the Wizards. And not saying he has to get paid an absolute bag, a crap ton of money or anything like that, but if you just look at it in perspective from what he's done in the past 2 seasons, I know availability has been one of the biggest problems for him, but putting that to the side, how well do you think he needs to prove himself offensively in order for this organization to offer him that type of extension?
He needs to play well. That's what I'm telling you, Ben, because, again, you mentioned the availability part. you can't have another season of a season-ending injury. I get it. This team's not going to be winning, but there are no excuses for that. And I love Bilal. I've been a big Bilal guy, but we can't come up here and keep making up excuses for this guy and saying the potential is there, potential is there, potential is there. Eventually, those excuses are going to run out. So, again, going back to the offensive mindset, he has to be aggressive. I mean, he is so freaking athletic, Ben. There are few guys in the league. There are a lot of athletic guys in the NBA, but guys like Bilal just don't grow on trees. And the confidence, again, you're 20, 21 years old. Like, you're supposed to be this alpha of this young Wizards team, and it's just concerning when seeing that type of performance overseas. I don't know, Ben. Like, do you think how much of it do you say, hey, maybe this is just an aberration. We shouldn't go into it. It's not an NBA game. But if it's not an NBA game, if he's not going up against NBA competition, he should go out there and ball out. I mean, what's the logic behind that,
I don't know. It seems like his confidence dwindled as the tournament went on, because if you look at the games before they played Israel, this includes the prep games they played, he was averaging 9.5 points per game, 4 rebounds, 45% from 3, and 60% from the field. The 4 games they played after they fell to Deni Avdija in Israel, he only averaged 3.5 points, 27% field goal percentage, and even worse, 17% from 3. So confidence-wise, it dwindled. And I think that showed by the lack of aggression we saw from him offensively. Today he played in 20 minutes, and he only took the 3 shots, which he ended up missing all 3 of those. So sometimes you get the sense where we saw this in the regular season for the first 2 years of Bilal Coulibaly as well, where he's out there and he's not having a great night offensively, and he stops himself. He doesn't continue to shoot the basketball. I know it's a cliche to say I'd rather go 0 for 30 than 0 for 3 because it means I stopped trying, but in Bilal Coulibaly's case, with someone that possesses the athleticism, the raw ability, to use those tools to score the basketball. We've seen it on a couple of occasions in a Wizards uniform. You want to see him go out there and continue to work on it, continue to try to assert himself, especially in a European game, which is obviously in the grand scheme of things, it matters a lot to those guys. They want to win really bad. So this has definitely got to be disappointing, one for him because he didn't play well, but also because France has been eliminated. They were upset by a team that really is considered a shocking result that France lost this game to Georgia. So think about it from that standpoint. If you're a Wizards fan, this is just it's disappointing the way things have shaped up in the EuroBasket. And I know the AmeriCup, you could look at it from a positive light because Keyshawn George was one of the 5 All-Star players over there. He looked really good, but Alex Sarr was unable to finish this tournament. He had a calf injury that kept him out for the last couple games, so you hope to see him ready to go for the preseason in about 4 weeks. And Bilal, man, it's just time is ticking on him because what the organization has done has shown me that they're not sold on anybody. I've been saying it the whole summer that nobody is really safe here long term because that's just how it is when you're on a rebuilding team. You need to find out who's going to stick around for the long term here. And now that the Wizards have added so many different players to the wing that are going to be part of the rotation this year, they've traded for a talented piece and Cam Whitmore that they know can fill it up offensively. It's more of a question what he can do defensively. Yeah, they're looking at a pretty tight lens here on Bilal Coulibaly. I think he's going to have to really show them a lot offensively. He's going to have to progress in a way maybe they didn't even anticipate in order for him to get an extension from this team. And we're going to talk about what happens if he doesn't pan out maybe the way they expected him to when they drafted him number 7 overall a couple years ago. But I'm not trying to say any of this because I want to knock down Bilal Coulibaly or I think he's a bad player, because I think he's a good basketball player. I think he's very serviceable in what he can do well, but I know he can do well, and I think he can have a bona fide part of this team in the long run in a certain role that would make sense for him. I don't know if he's ever going to be the player that a lot of people want him to be. What's happened in Europe this summer, I'm gonna take it as a grain of salt because it's not an NBA game, so I'm gonna give a little bit of slack there. He was expected to do maybe a lot more than they would have typically done because they had so many guys that were out that are NBA ready players. It was basically just him and Rish Asher that were out there today rather. So if you look at it from that lens, you can give Bilal maybe a little bit of pass, but overall this kind of disappointing, and hopefully this doesn't bleed over into the regular season. Hopefully he can put it behind him.
But Georgia, Ben, like that not the state, the country, Georgia. I mean, who's on that roster? I'm not even trying to be disrespectful because it's just like I get it, take it with a grain of salt, but I know we're going to talk about later on the episode, Ben, but what game this upcoming season do we actually evaluate Bilal and say, hey, this is not looking good?
We're going to have to figure that out because we're going to see if he's on a short leash. And I know we talked about different lineup combinations. I think Bilal will start on opening night. I know there's a lot of people out there that think Bilal shouldn't even start opening night. I think he should still start opening night for this team. But to say that he's going to be in the starting lineup the entire season, I don't believe that. Not even if Bilal was out there hooping, I could see him not starting just because they have so many different possibilities of what they're going to do off the wing and a lot of different rotations that might shape up pretty different, especially after the trade deadline. I could see games where he comes off the bench just because they're trying to evaluate what they have. But if he can't get it together or get going offensively, I think you might see Cam Whitmore a lot sooner than people believe. Because I think Whitmore's a guy that they traded for because they really do believe in what he brings to the table offensively. They think that Houston just wasn't the right spot for him, and they can mold him into, the kind of player they think he can be based on what he's done in his first 2 years in the league. So if I were Bilal Coulibaly, you got to look in your rear view right there that you got a guy with super potent offensive talent right on your back right there that's coming for that spot. It's going to be competitive, which you do love to see. We know it's going to be a very tough camp environment. Guys are going to be competing every single night because there's too many guys. There's not enough minutes to go around, so everyone's going to have to battle it out and really earn all their minutes. If Coulibaly doesn't improve offensively, he might find his way falling in the rotation just a little bit.
Because again, I always mention this. There's no excuses for him not to be aggressive with the basketball. There is no Jordan Poole there. There is no Kyle Kuzma there. You have to be the guy to take those shots. As much as I love Trey Johnson, he's going to be a rookie. He's going to have his ups and downs. Bilal, year 3, you need to be able to go out there and prove to this organization. There's a reason why you drafted me. There's a reason why there's so much untapped potential in me. Now it's just go out there and play with confidence. If you yourself, as an NBA player, just go out there. Again, I loved Ben Simmons, but that was a big thing about him. He was just 6'10", but just didn't know how to put the ball in the hoop and was scared and media and whatnot. How can we give you that extension? You know what I'm saying? So I hope it pans out. I'm hope. It might seem like we're negative on this episode, Ben, but we both love Bilal. There's no question about that. We want this dude to succeed. It's just how much does he want it? So we'll have to see come year 3.
Absolutely. How short will that leash be? We're going to answer that next year on Locked On Wizards. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however I like to bet. Player props, building same-game parlays, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. You can do it all with FanDuel. Makes every game even more exciting. Whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup, FanDuel's the best way to do it. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now, and by visiting FanDuel.com, you can get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Is Bilal Coulibaly going to be on a leash in terms of his spot in the rotation, him starting? It's going to be interesting to see, one, because he hasn't been able to really stay healthy for an entire season yet in his career. You'd love to see him actually play in 75 to 80 games this year instead of 58. Which he capped off at last year before he was ultimately kept out. Probably just shut down because they were trying to lose games at the end of the year especially, and Bilal might have hurt their chances a little bit. But he's going to have to improve vastly offensively. He had a regression in his three-point shot in year number 2, which was a little bit disheartening to see because at the NBA level, you got to be able to shoot the basketball. You put it very astutely earlier in the first segment, Abdullah, that he's got to shoot the basketball better. And anyone that covers the NBA has said about Bilal, he's so interesting because he's so freakish in the way he can play basketball because of how athletic he is, how long he is, and what he can do on the defensive end. But you got to be able to shoot to really be an effective offensive player in the NBA at this era, especially someone at his size. I know he's got the tools to get to the rim, but you're going up against stiff competition, guys that can guard the ball well. If you're too one-dimensional in being a player that only attacks the basket and is a liability shooting the basketball from the outside, you're just never going to see that kind of success offensively. So with that being said, they get Cam Whitmore in this offseason, who's per 36 minutes, averaging 22 points per game through his first 2 seasons with Houston. Some of the performance, though, if you do look at the top outputs from him scoring-wise, he does have some garbage time, big-time scoring performances. He has one particular one. I think it was his career high against the Lakers where they're losing the game by 30, pretty much the whole game, and he dropped 34 points. So, yeah, he was out there. He was hooping. He was getting buckets, but kind of garbage time minutes. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can go off for an output like that in a real competitive, tight game. I think he can. I think he's going to have some really top-of-the-line games this year for this Wizards team when he gets his fair shot in the rotation. I think even when he does come off the bench, he's going to play plenty because of what he can do offensively. I think he's going to be locked in. He's going to have his bag deep this season. Will he get a spot over Bilal at some point in the year? AB, this is kind of just throwing it out there. You're not even really expecting you to give like a super analytical answer. You think Cam Whitmore might end up starting over Bilal at some point this year?
As much as I love Bilal, I love Cam Whitmore too. It is a possibility. And before I go on to Cam Whitmore, Ben, another guy, Will Riley. The Wizards drafted him a wing. Maybe this is a guy where I think because they traded for Cam Whitmore before after the draft. So if you're the Wizards front office and you're seeing Bilal struggle and you want to put Cam Whitmore in, at one point do you say, hey, we got to get Will Riley some touches because year 3 Bilal, I mean, how much more do we want to see of this? But going back to your original question, for sure, 100%, Ben. If Bilal's not showing that consistent guy who can average 15 to 20 points per game, and you mentioned the stats of 22 points per game per 36 minutes, granted garbage time, but at least he's taking advantage of his opportunities. That's what I love to see from young guys. Cam Whitmore can go out there and ball out. Bilal, take it to the bench. Cam, you're in.
Yeah, I think we might see a realistic scenario at some point in the year where Bilal Coulibaly is coming off the bench. And I've always said it, like, Bilal Coulibaly, like, same thing kind of applies with Bub Carrington, but I'm going to give him more benefit of the doubt because it's way too early to know what kind of player he is, especially as a point guard. Both those dudes would be really good guys to come off the bench, especially if you had some more talent that you'd insert in the starting lineup that you can rely on offensively. Those would be phenomenal players to come off your bench. Bilal especially. If you have a dude that comes off the bench and could give you, in 15 minutes or something like that, he could give you 12 points off the bench, a couple steals, a block, and chip in for some rebounds, and just overall play some really tough defense, guard the opponent's number one player. That'd be insane to have that kind of production off the bench. That's kind of what you're almost hoping for out of Jameer Watkins at some point. So that's putting it like, I'm not even trying to say like I think that low of Bilal or something like that, because I think Bilal is a lot more offensive talent than Jameer Watkins, especially right now. And the athleticism alone is definitely a lot more than Watkins, even though he is a pretty athletic freak. But Bilal just possesses traits that are unlike a lot of players in the NBA, and it's pretty evident when you see it, when he goes up there and punches the rim, and you just think, wow, like this dude really could be one of them ones offensively if he could just figure it out. If he could just find a way to be a little more consistent finishing at the rim, be more consistent as a jump shooter. But through the first 2 years, we haven't really seen him do that on a consistent basis, and that's just the biggest problem. And this summer, I feel like has kind of been a mixed bag for him in terms of showing that he's going to make strides in year number 3 with it. But I'm going to give him time. I feel like his leash, if we're going to put a leash on it, I'd say you give him the first 15 or 20 games of the year, so pretty much the first quarter of the season, to see what he has offensively, to see what he develops. If he doesn't show any strides, he doesn't show you any ability that he's going to improve offensively as a jump shooter or a guy that's overall just going to make you more sound offensively, I'd say give somebody else an opportunity. I'd say give Whitmore some more minutes. I don't know if Will Riley is going to be in the mix of that conversation. I'm glad you brought him up. I just feel like he's a little bit more raw right now. We might not see a lot of him until later in the year. I think he might get some minutes for the go-go, if we're being honest, but we'll have to see what the situation looks like for him. Riley's a tough shot maker. Brad Underwood out of Illinois, his head coach, said he was he said he was the second best tough shot maker he'd ever seen. So that's some pretty high praise from Underwood. But I don't know if we're going to see a lot of him early on. So I feel like Cam Whitmore at that rate, he's going to be a guy that's going to have to get those minutes early on. Corey Kispert still on the team right now, so he'll play minutes. If he's there, he'll play minutes because he's a proven commodity offensively. He can play. He just can't do anything on defense. So the Wizards are hoping they just get an even better version of Corey Kispert out of Cam Whitmore because he's maybe a little bit more talented offensively, can do a lot more than just shoot. And he maybe could play some defense if they get him coached up right to do so here in DC. But yeah, I'd give Bilal about the first quarter of the season before maybe I'd give somebody else a real large opportunity. What about you?
I'm going to give him a little more than a quarter. I'll say 30 games because, again, the Wizards, they're probably going to be mixing up the starting lineups. I wanted to go ask you the question, Ben, how many games does he have to play? For me, it has to be at the minimum 65. I know you mentioned 70 to 75. That would be great, but I think he has to at least 65.
Yeah, I feel like 65 would honestly still be a little bit low for me. He played 58 last year in the first year. I think he played 63. I'd have to double check. I'd love to see him play at least 70. If he's only missing around 10 games, I guess you could deal with that depending on what the situations are. Like if they just rest him a couple nights. I mean, I don't know why he'd even need a rest. He's a 20
No, he's
20-year-old
too young to
kid.
be arrested, man.
Well, we don't the Wizards don't have to load manage anybody. They're not worried about saving anybody for the postseason. So
That's a benefit right there.
there's that. Everybody can play every single night. Bob Carrington did it last year. Everyone should be held to the same standard. If you're healthy or healthy enough, at least, you got to be out there playing. You got to be available for this team. Bilal's going to have to do that ahead of year number 3. What if he doesn't pan out? What does it look like? What are the next steps for this organization? I mean, just think about it. Would it be a massive disaster if Bilal doesn't become the player they think he could be? I don't know. We'll talk about that next. So if Bilal doesn't pan out to what the Wizards organization thought he would be when they traded up a pick to get him 2 years ago, traded up one pick with the Pacers to get this guy in Bilal Coulibaly because they believed that much in him, the first draft pick of the Will Dawkins regime. If he doesn't work out for this team long term, is it some sort of major disaster that's going to halt the overall progress of this rebuild? Then we're now entering the 3rd official year of truly rebuilding. I don't think in the grand scheme of things it really does. I think the Wizards have still set themselves up with a good amount of draft picks in the future. I think they're still, multiple pieces away, as we've touched on. They've made some strides. Like I can understand the direction they're going in right now. I feel like they've done all of the right things. They're just going to have guys step up and be the ancillary pieces they need to get over the hump. And I really hope Whitmore could actually be that guy, because if you really did get him for only 2 second-round picks and he becomes a guy that blossoms into a true elite level scorer, somebody that can give you 17 to 20 points per game as a starting 3 in this league. He can chip in defensively and take over basketball games just because of what he can do on the offensive side of the basketball. That'd be a big, big win. That would allow you to have Bilal Coulibaly come off your bench and do what he does defensively and help out offensively however he can. I don't know if he's going to become the player that people want him to be. It's tough for me to really say that I think he's going to, because I haven't seen any consistency from him. And I know it seems weird to say like he's consistently inconsistent, but that's kind of what he's been. Some nights you just can't help but drop your jaw and be amazed at what Bilal Coulibaly has done, especially on offense. And some nights you just kind of scratch your head and go, I don't know about this guy right here. I feel like he's got some tools. I feel like he's good defensively, but I don't know if he's ever going to take that next step. And that's kind of where we are right here before year number 3, Abdullah.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Ben. I think being consistent with being inconsistent, it's frustrating because, again, there's so many people out there that are backing this guy, justifying that he's young. But year 3, that extension coming up, again, the whole idea of trading for Kent Whitmore, if it doesn't pan out, it is what it is. The Wizards have a lot of wings, but also this upcoming draft class, if they can land a top 5 pick, I love AJ DeBonza, I love Nate Met, the Boozers. There's so many options there, but I think the reality of the situation is he's not going to be a superstar, and more likely than not, he's not going to be an all-star. And that's the way the NBA is. There's more role players than all-stars in the league. But if he can somehow carve his way to being a really good defender on this team who can occasionally give you 5 to 10 points, that would be good. But at the end of the day, the Wizards had high praise for him, and he was this guy coming out of the draft that was just so raw. You traded a pick up for him. I remember I was a big fan of drafting Ken Whitmore in that draft, so it's cool to see they're both on the same team right now. But at the end of the day, we have to be serious with ourselves as Wizards fans. Can Bilal be that guy? We'll just have to see. And again, it's just so many things that are going to be factored into it because, again, I'll go back to availability. And if he's available, can he be producing? Is he consistent? Let me ask you this, Ben. If he's going out there putting up a lot of shots, but he's being inconsistent, would you rather have that, I'm assuming, than a game where he's just not shooting the ball at all, I'm assuming, right? A stretch of games?
Yeah, but it would get to a point, though, if he was consistently out there shooting 10 to 12 shots a game and just showing inefficiency night in, night out. I think you'd have to make a change right there, because then it would just be killing your offensive development. If you had a guy that was out there taking too many shots that didn't necessarily deserve them because they ended up just being low percentage shots for him. You can just think about when Kyle Kuzma was here, he was taking so many shots for this team. And I mean, he had a couple nights where he'd score the ball pretty well, but ultimately probably killing the development of a lot of these players because he's just taking terrible shots. I'm not saying Bilal is going to take terrible shots. Like, I've never seen evidence of Bilal going out there and taking shots that I don't think realistically he could make on a basketball floor. I've never seen him do that. It's just, is he able to get it done taking these higher percentage shots where he's really struggled to make them? Just catch and shoot opportunities for one. I think he's going to have to be a lot better if he does post up. If you have an offense that flows around pretty well, they move the ball efficiently, is he going to be a guy that's able to knock it down from the quarter if he gets an open look? They're going to hope he is, but if he's not, I don't know, you're going to have to make a change. You're going to have to figure out what works in the long term because you need somebody that can provide the value he does defensively, but also provide that value in the same realm as a shooter from beyond the arc. That's why these 3-and-D players are so special. They're so rare because it's truly hard to find a player that possesses those same skill sets to really an elite level like a Lou Dort. I don't know if Bilal could be that kind of player. I don't think he could be as good as Lou because I don't think he'll ever be as good as a three-point shooter. Defensively, though, hell yeah. Bilal is already up there for me, like one of the better defenders in the whole league, which is almost ridiculous to say.
And I think that's why, Ben, like a lot of people are still, and me and guys like me and you are still hanging on to him because he's so good defensively. It's just the offensive side that needs to be tapped in.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. I don't want to sound like we're hating on him at all because I know this episode has been really negative in terms of Bilal Coulibaly and what his future looks like. But sometimes as a Wizards fan, you have to look in the mirror and be realistic about the situation you're in because this is a big part of the rebuild right here. This was the first guy that was taken by this new regime. So if things don't work out long term with Bilal Coulibaly, then at the end of the day, it's kind of just a miss by Dawkins and the regime. It's too early to say that you're there, but you have to look at everything at a very objective lens right here. And for me right now, I haven't seen enough from Bilal Coulibaly. I don't think the organization has seen enough, and that's why they're putting a lot of pressure on him for this upcoming season.
Yeah, I agree with you. That pressure, amount of money that he wants to get paid. Regimes in the past, when it came to the Wizards, they would overpay for a lot of players, but I think they're going to be really smart with their money. So who knows how much Bilal Coulibaly is going to be worth at the end of this year? We'll have to see, but I'm hoping he does take the year 3 jump, and this is all smoke. This is all water under the bridge at the end of the year.
Hopefully he plays like Deron Payne in a contract year, because man, oh my God, Deron Payne was out. The first time I'd seen Deron Payne in like 3 years today for the Commanders. That dude was he get the game ball for me, him and Javon Kinlaw. But we need Bilal Coulibaly in a contract year to play exactly like that. That's going to be the key for him. All right, that'll do it for us on Locked On Wizards. We are back to the 5 weekly episode schedule, so be locked in for that. We'll be posting every Monday through Friday. We thank you for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every single day. Let us know what you thought of today's episode and what you think about the future of Bilal Coulibaly. The Locked On NBA Top 100 is here, voted on by the NBA host of the Locked On Podcast Network. Our Top 100 was formed by experts that cover these teams for the entire year. And on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast, you can check it out, the Top 100 list. Don't miss our reaction. We're going to go through the Wizards, see who landed in the Top 100, and we're going to push out some content from some of those videos right there. So be sure to check out the Locked On Top 100. All right, for my co-host Abdullah Ayubi, you can check him out, host of the DMV Sports Zone page. I'm Ben Strober. You can check me out on my socials at Strober Sports Wizards Nation. We are out.